welcome back to another episode. Welcome to 2026. The first episode obviously was depressing, so let's just keep the ball rolling because that seems to be what you guys are here for now, which is information, which is what I want to give you. I want to give you guys data and information that you are not going to receive from traditional media or mainstream media or whatever we're calling it nowadays. But either way, it's not truthful, it's not honest, and it doesn't come with any form of receipts. So I figured we would talk about some of the new bills that are coming through. We've spoken about them before on the Substack, but I want to talk about them on the show because I think a lot of you now are listening this way, and that's what we want. But before we get started, make sure you guys go check out all of the sponsors that keep us going and keep our show going. We have Masterpiece, which is the new incredible brand that we are working with for 2026 that will help remove toxins from your body. You guys will see the code in the bio. You can go check them out. They ship worldwide. It's just Kelsi, like every other code. Ketone IQ is back for another 2026 round with us, and we are thankful for them because they keep my brain focused and it keeps it functioning so that I can do these shows back-to-back days with you. And Good Living, as always, because functional mushrooms are exactly what your brain needs to help create those new neural pathways. And of course, Brass and Unity is always here. My company loves to support anyone and everyone in the veteran and first responder space. So make sure to check them out. All of the codes are in the bio. So let's jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about Bill C-11. I know you've heard this one before, but it's a little aggressive. It is really this Online Harms Act, which is just about hate. Now, we've already started to see people arrested in 2025 based on this specific bill itself, even though it is not in yet. We saw an individual out east that was arrested. I believe he was using, if I'm not mistaken, symbols. Now, the symbols are the thing that they are targeting the most, but let's just be very clear. That's where it starts. It is not censorship like we saw, quite as bad as we saw during the trucker protests, although the RCMP definitely did put in a group chat that we leaked with several other individuals that they would be stomping people with their jackboots. But apparently that doesn't constitute an arrest, only if we do it, right? So Bill C-9 is this attempt for compassion and promising safety. It is anything but that. And the thing about it that we should be paying attention to is the verbiage that Sean Fraser is putting in with these bills. The Liberals have been in now for over 7 months, and they have not done or put in a single bill that has helped Canadians, only censor us more, collapse us more, and cause the rest of the nation to fall into what it is now. We've seen this, and you guys have heard about this over in the UK. This is the 12,000 people being arrested for tweets and for Facebook posts. They went down this road years ago, and now we're seeing what that looks like for them. Roughly 30 people a day are being arrested. But before we move on, I just want you to notice the language that is being used in these bills because it is a sweeping, dangerous ideology. It's no different than the way MAID works and the way that they use the verbiage to change up the law and make it so ambiguous that you don't actually understand what they're even saying, because I don't think that they fully understand what they are saying. They are saying that Bill C-9 is some form of progress, but it's never been progress when you are able to put people who have different opinions of you into jail. That's not progress, that's tyranny. That's how we get to, where all of these other communist countries got to. And I know you guys don't love the word communism, but let's just take a real look at this. When you have people like the UK that built in a speech policy, it's an active speech policy regime that looks at between 2019 and 2023 under the offensive communications. Now, this is no different than Canada because we fall under the Crown. We just use different words, so it doesn't look identical. And what we've seen here is that their new act jumped from roughly 60%, so roughly around 7,700 people, to more than 12,000 arrests per year. Now, that Communication Act for the UK came in 1988, but now this new one between 2019 and 2023 is under the Offensive Communication Act, because apparently words are violence now and are offensive for pretty much anybody that is not going to agree with you. There are plenty of people online that don't agree with me daily, but I don't think that means they should be arrested. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? When 30 people a day, not detained for violence, for theft, for fraud, for posting online, while there are literal rape gangs running around all of the UK, terrorizing the native population, and the police aren't even holding them accountable. But God forbid you put a tweet about someone you don't like. Well, they will be at your door in the middle of the night and they will warn you you're going to prison if you don't take it down. Hey everyone, there was a point when I realized I wasn't burnt out, I was just depleted. Not emotionally, not physically. I was just training and working and thinking constantly, writing for this show, and replacing it all with caffeine and grit. And what changed things for me was fixing the basics. Great hydration, real minerals, and support for my nervous system instead of the constant stimulus. Good Living's electrolyte mix covers all of what most brands and people are missing, whether it's creatine, cordyceps, sea salt, potassium, magnesium, and thankfully, no added sugar, in ratios that actually make sense for the body. And their functional mushrooms help with focus and stress without flipping your nervous system into fight or flight. It's not exciting, it's effective. I don't use wellness products, but Good Living earned a spot in my daily stack, and I will never live without it again. If you want to feel more stable instead of more hyped, well, the link is in the show notes. Give them a shot. I promise you won't regret it. See, the UK Home Office recorded more than 115,000 hate crimes at the end of March of 2025, and that was up from 2% from the year before. And according to Factually, which is a platform, 83 people were arrested in 2023 under the offense of communications. That means it's up 58% from 2019. And the saddest part to think about this reality is that most aren't even coming remotely close to being hateful. They're just expressing their frustrations from a nation that's no longer looking after its population, and from a nation that is promoting what seems like, and this is no different than Canada, promoting ideologies like Islam and allowing rape gangs to go on as long as they have. And yet the ministers and the mayors of London don't seem to have an issue with this because it hasn't stopped. And you have the police officers who have always said and have come out and said very clearly, we have known about this, but we've been too afraid to arrest on this because we don't want to be seen as Islamophobic. But it's fine for little white girls to be raped, but it's definitely not fine for the people to be put in prison. This is when you know things are getting out of control. Because in practice, the idea of punishing sarcasm and satire and criticizing those feels maybe okay if you're on the other side of it. But police have been showing up at citizens' homes for tweets and memes and even song lyrics. We had a friend of ours, Bridges, on the show who wrote a song who was taken off of X because he made a satire song about MAID, which is kind of crazy because he's right. There's even been one man arrested in the UK for posting rap lyrics in memory of a friend. And another was questioned for misgendering somebody on social media. Misgendering, people. You know, the mental illness that is sweeping the globe? That, apparently you can go to prison for refusing to play into someone's mental illness. I'm sorry. If you're a woman, you're a woman. If you're a man, you're a man. I'm not going to prison over the fact that you want me to call you a cat. That's delusional. Our populations are being forced into believing and affirming these kinds of delusions. And that is a problem because these delusions are not reality. And they're definitely not a crime and definitely not the other way around. The uncomfortable reality is that these are not just theoretic abuses anymore. These are theoretical abuses anymore. These are actually happening and they're happening on a grand scheme. And now Canada is becoming a part of this as well. They're trying to predict outcomes when speech regulations shift from intent to impact. Like I said before, apparently the UK government and now Sean Fraser think that words are violence. Clearly, neither of those government officials or people in it have been punched in the fucking face before. Because I can promise you, words are not violence. Sure, they could lead to violence, but I don't see any of the other politicians going to prison when they called the people who were protesting them for a differing opinion Nazis. Trudeau, that would be you. There were plenty of people who called veterans terrorists, yet I don't see them arrested. But if you say a tweet or something wrong that offends somebody somehow, well, I guess you're going to prison. The British police have even admitted to this absurdity, and that's what we're trying to get you across, is people who are in power are saying this is wrong and yet are following through with it because they're too afraid to lose their jobs. And even internal memos are showing this, that resources are stretched so thin, chasing online complaints while violent cases are going unsolved. This is happening in Canada, and this is happening in the UK, and Australia is next. Hey, let me interrupt you for 10 seconds because this actually matters. You can eat clean, train hard, you can meditate daily and still feel like garbage if your body is overloaded with toxins. Modern life is loaded with heavy metals, microplastics, and those sticky, stubborn, forever chemicals. This stuff builds up quietly time over time and shows up as fatigue, brain fog, inflammation, and gut issues, and even poor sleep. The constant sense of being off, even when you're doing everything right. That's why I want to tell you guys about my new partners, Masterpiece by Human Consciousness Support. Masterpiece isn't some trendy detox gimmick or harsh cleanse. You guys know I do not do those. It's a scientifically formulated detox support made with microscopic organic zeolite, one of the most powerful binders, combined with bioavailable sea plasma minerals. And in plain, simple language, it basically helps your body bind to toxins, move them out safely, and replenish essential minerals inside instead of depleting you. This isn't about masking symptoms anymore or chasing those quick fixes. It's about reducing the toxic load in your body so that your nervous system, your brain, and your energy can actually function the way it's supposed to. People using Masterpiece report clearer thinking, better energy, improved digestion, and noticeably sense of calm internally. This isn't hype. It's not some miracle. It's just real changes that add up over time. So if you guys are serious about your health, which I know you are if you're listening to this show, then go and grab a bottle. And once you grab a bottle, it'll come with an extra one. In a world that's getting more toxic, and definitely not less, this one is worth your attention. The link is in the bio with the code. It's just Kelsi. Give it a shot. So when did, just curious for me, because apparently I've lost my mind, when did rape and murder lose priority over someone's tweet? Or have we really fallen that far that these hate incidents somehow justify more funding, but funding is not justifiable when there is literal rape gangs walking around provinces and around states and around the UK? It's really just this liberal ideology of the snake eating its own tail. And we've seen this before. This isn't new in Canada. We've had a liberal government now for almost a decade. Yet this government has sat the least it ever has in our entire history, because apparently they don't need to work, but they can sure as hell collect a paycheck. See, the irony is that even when these arrests rise, convictions have fallen. Many cases collapse even before the trial. But the damage is done because now you're being labeled, you're being fingerprinted, interrogated, and now you're publicly labeled as somebody who is a hate criminal. So you're probably going to lose your job. Your family's going to want to disassociate from you. If you have any good family, they definitely will understand how ridiculous this is. But it's the same old way of doing things like public flogging. Somehow this is acceptable. And then the courts aren't held accountable or the police for falsely arresting you. Because words are not violence. And I'm not sure how our prisons are going to be able to hold this amount of people, because if you've been on X lately, you've understood that I'm not standing alone in the way that I'm speaking, nor are many people in Canada. They are speaking up, but the problem is we're afraid of losing our bank accounts and our jobs. Good news for me, I don't have a job, so I can't lose it and no one can complain to. But a bank account I do. So this is what I'm trying to understand is how have we gotten to a place where we have told ourselves that calling someone a name is more dangerous than them being killed? Because that is how slow drip censorship works. It metastasizes, and it's never through these mass trials, but it's always through mass intimidation. And you've seen this during the Schmovid time, how people would respond to being pushed up against. This is what you're seeing right now. It's a psychological effect, but it's not legal. And when thousands of people watch others being punished for words, do you guys really think that they're not going to start self-censoring before they even type something? That's how you know they've got you. When you literally stop typing because you're too afraid of the repercussions. Yesterday, right now, recording this on the 28th of December, I wrote a tweet that went viral. And I stand by it. Canada needs ice. But that would normally make somebody uncomfortable to say out loud. But isn't it the reality? When a foreign population begins to overrun your own, should we not be taking a look at the illegal immigrants that have run the country? See, now Britain has become a country where the police say, without irony, being offensive is an offense. See, that sentence has become a policy that free speech ceased to be a right and it is no longer a constitutional privilege, and one that you can lose, apparently, with any form of bad joke. And I can promise you there are plenty of bad jokes out there. this current government being one of them. Canada's Bill C-9 was introduced late in 2025, and it has been pitched as a modern hate crime law that compassionate tightening of the loopholes. And in reality, it is just the exact same as the UK's playbook. Sean Fraser and the rest of Canada are starting to see that this might not work for them. And thank God, because if this does work, our prisons are going to be overflowing with people who tweeted something and grandmothers who are tired of having their homes broken into and cannot protect themselves. See, this bill would remove the requirement for the Attorney General to approve prosecutions for hate propaganda, which means it would lower the bar for the charges. Now, that is a whole new issue on its own, because it would create what is called a new offense for willfully promoting hatred through symbol display or intimidating access to religious and cultural places. But hey, I don't see any sort of Muslims being, I don't know, put in prison when they're standing in front of our Catholic and Christian churches or our synagogues and praying. That is called intimidation. We're going to do an entire episode on what intimidation looks like and what domination looks like. And when, again, I've said this before, but it bears saying again, when the enemy tells you who they are the first time, why are you so unwilling to listen? You're not Islamophobic when people are blocking you from getting into your church and asking them to move. That's called domination. In Canada, you're being dominated by a very hateful organization, but they're not being arrested. Because it states very clearly in this, intimidating access to religious and cultural places. That is hate-motivated offenses, but I guess it's only for Canadians, like, you know, the white ones. So it sounds benign, it sounds innocent, and it sounds lovely, I guess, if you're somebody who sits on Twitter all day and bangs on about people having different opinions than you. But context cannot be standardized. And when you take it away from the Attorney General and their approval to prosecute, this is a problem. You're removing a safeguard for the citizens and the population. Intent cannot be measured. Context cannot be standardized. And hatred itself has no fixed definition in law. And as in Britain and how they're discovering right now, it is a shape-shifting term. So how can you charge someone with something that's ebbing and flowing by the day? There has been lots of civil liberty organizations that are very nervous. The Free Speech Union of Canada has warned that Bill C-9 packs a punch and could even make constitutionally protected expression now criminal in Canada. It is already a hate propaganda law under Section 319 of the Criminal Code. And adding new ones isn't filling a gap. It's widening the net almost by the day. The surface justification for these laws is nothing more than emotional. And when you lead with emotion and not logic, this is how you fall. This is how you get DEI. This is how you get an overrun country. And once the state defines certain words or ideas that they disagree with as hateful, people will be monitored. And this will be a lot worse because now public statements will be not just the only thing they're looking at, but it will be private thoughts. A great example of that is North Korea, China, and Russia. That's how totalitarian systems actually evolve. When you yourself self-censor before you even type, that's how you know they've got you. The result is an anxious culture, one where audacity and authenticity is punished and conformity and only conformity is rewarded. Canada believes in being yourself as long as you fall in line and absolutely question nothing. That's where we've been going for a minute, and that's where we will continue to go. There's a deep psychological cost to that. When a free society relies on friction, the ability to challenge, offend, and provoke thought. That's how a society grows and develops. Have you taken a look lately at North Korea to see how much it's developed? No, because you can't, because it's communist, and also because you can't have differing thought. You don't get harmony, you get stagnation. Progress requires questioning everything, and it's dependent on it for the freedom to be wrong. But Britain is a great example of where Canada is headed if we don't get our heads out of our asses. And today, the British police record thousands of non-crime hate incidents. And every year where an actual crime is happening, it's not being stopped because they're so damn busy with tweets. Bill C-9 risks importing that exact same mindset. And to be honest with you, I think it's going to go. Because somehow they've convinced enough liberals that they should destroy their own country. And conservatives are crossing the aisle to support this nonsense. When the state decides which emotions are acceptable, it now ceases to be a referee and becomes a participant in the culture war. It declares moral victory by legislative decree, and that is an issue, one you don't get to vote on, one you don't get a say in. Only Sean Fraser. I encourage Sean Fraser to go get a fucking life, because apparently all he wants to do is tear down everyone's in Canada. And yes, that is freedom of expression, and no, this bill is not law yet. So I'll say it again. Please, fuck off. Because this isn't legal anymore. This is cultural. And if you can't handle a word, please go somewhere else. If you're that soft, go, I don't know, what is that saying?
Send him 2-3 years Dagestan and forget.
But when people start whispering instead of speaking, society will grow brittle. And we've already seen that in Canada. It is beyond fracture, and it has absolutely begun to fall. And no, this isn't nihilism. This is a reality check for the rest of you watching this. Yes, you don't like the words, but I encourage you to take a look again why those sounds hurt your little ears. Is it that you've just never been around it? Or is it actually physically harming you? Because I'm pretty sure the way I speak isn't doing anything to you other than making you uncomfortable. Hey, good news though. That's where the growth lies, when you become uncomfortable. We have to pay attention to self-censorship. It is now becoming a survival strategy, and that is an issue. Self-censorship should never exist. You should be able to speak your mind. But we have to pay attention because Britain's story is a mirror, and Canada, well, it's reflecting it, and that is a problem. And the only question now is whether we recognize it in time. And unfortunately, from what I can see, and from within the walls of this country, it's not looking good, guys. So go speak to your MPs. Go say something. Say, we're not voting you in again if you keep pulling this. We want freedom of speech. We want freedom to say what other people don't like. That is the only way to keep a country moving forward. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you all in the next few days. We're doing 3 episodes a week, hopefully 4 here soon. Let me know what you guys think. Go check out all of those amazing sponsors in the bio. Go help yourself, because we know the government's not going to help you. I will see you guys on a few days.